So a couple of days ago, we talked about Joe Rogan's weird rant about Theo Von's mental health. Joe Rogan was having a discussion on his podcast with Marcus King about mental health, depression, and he decided to bring up Theo Von and use him as an example and kind of discuss his issues with SSRIs.
And to me, it freaks me out because I know Theo has had conversations before, like even publicly. He had a Netflix taping and it didn't go well. It was like they actually they shelved it. They never used it. And there was all these stories from people that were there saying he bombed. I think he just had a kind of a breakdown. And when he was talking to the crowd, and there's a video of it, we said, the people were shaking. Hey, we still love you. He goes, thank you. Look, I'm trying not to take my own life. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah. This just doesn't seem like something that you should be discussing on a podcast with some random guy that doesn't know Theo Von personally, has only had a few interactions with him, rather than having this discussion privately with Theo Von himself. And a big reason why I and many people online had an issue with Joe Rogan discussing Theo Von's mental health is largely because in the last podcast that Joe Rogan had Theo Von on, they discussed Israel, they discussed politicians and their weird proclivities with children. I mean, frankly, saying it was a discussion is kind of exaggerating what was actually happening. Actually, what happened is Theo Von would bring these subjects up, and then Joe Rogan shot him down by saying that he's mentally ill and that he needs to get off of SSRIs. So let's watch, once again, Joe Rogan's engagement with Theo Von when Theo Von brings up these subject matters that clearly Joe doesn't really want to get into. I mean, a fucking buffer. Holy shit.
But what also, it's like, it's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same shit has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting fucking politicians slurp on kids. All of our fucking money goes to Israel and they're using it to fucking genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is
By the way, Joe Rogan has gone on far more spirited tirades than this.
Amongst us, and our religious leaders are fucking talking about bullshit at the poll. It's just like, what is going? I don't know, man.
We got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your fucking.
You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
Marbles.
You think I am?
You're losing your fucking marbles. We need to get you off them SSRIs. Golly. So again, a couple of problems that I have with this. He's calling him crazy when he brings up things like Israel or politicians being corrupt. He discusses Theo Von's mental health with Marcus King on a separate podcast publicly. Again, I just don't think that that is necessary. And I also think that it's kind of disrespectful. And it kind of makes me feel like, are you crazy making this person? Are you trying to make it seem like everything that Theo Von is, rallying for publicly and talking about, he's doing that because he's crazy? Like, it feels like you were trying to diminish the things that Theo Von is talking about by making him sound crazy. Now, flash forward to yesterday, Joe Rogan issues a formal apology at the end of his podcast. Now, who does he have on this podcast and why does it matter? Okay, well, he has a guy by the name of Mark Andreessen on the podcast. Now, if you're not aware of who Mark Andreessen is, this person is the #1 funder of Flock, subject that they actually spoke about in the Theo Von podcast. So let me make it clear for everyone. In the podcast in which Joe Rogan is apologizing to Theo Von, he decided to have on a billionaire who is the lead investor in a surveillance company. What the fuck? Now, how did I find out about Flock? I found out through one of my favorite YouTubers, Louis Rossman. You can't get a breath of fresh air without us knowing.
No, you cannot. You are not allowed to prove your innocence. No. And he actually said this afterwards.
We have cameras in that town, and you can't get a breath of fresh air in or out of that place without us knowing, correct?
If you want people to move to your area and pay into the tax base that pays the police, you might not want to say out loud, and I quote, you can't breathe in this town without being surveilled, because that's just not the flex that you think it is. If a sheriff comes to my door, and I am far from an ACAB anti-police type of person, and said, you can't breathe in this town without us seeing it, I'm the fuck out of there. Like, my house is going on Zillow the next day. He refused.
Now, mind you, the person that was accused had nothing to do with the crime in question. After police used Flock cameras to accuse Denver woman of theft, she had to prove her own innocence. Guilty until proven innocent. So how does Joe Rogan open up this podcast with his billionaire buddy who owns a private mass surveillance system? Let's have a look.
So you were saying that the reason why they had a hard time catching them is because they had Flock cameras in Austin,
Yep.
but then they shut those cameras off for political reasons.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So
For political reasons.
Please explain that.
yeah. So these guys are driving around in cars, and yeah, they're switching cars, whatever. Yeah, and
Do you not want to be surveilled by a private company? That's a political reason.
they went to like a dozen locations and like fight, and tried shooting at buildings and people and houses and all kinds of stuff. And so, okay, so you got this guy running around. So there's a system called Flock, which is one of our companies, and what they do is kind of like in the movies. You take all the municipal cameras and traffic cameras and everything, and you feed them into an AI, and the AI is able to first find a license plate in real time, so you can find that. But second, you can actually find a car even if you don't have the license plate. So you can find like distinct markings on the car. It'll track the car. And so this thing is deployed. It's sold to city governments. It's used all over the country. It solves crimes every day. We get reports on carjackings with kids in the back seat, and their lives get saved because they track them.
And it's awesome to explain the specific examples of shootings, carjackings with kids in the back seat. But as we know, a woman was falsely accused of stealing someone's package and had to prove her own innocence. I'm not saying security cameras can't be helpful in stopping crime. I'm not saying that AI cannot help those security cameras parse through footage. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is you should be wary of a billionaire going on Joe Rogan's podcast to explain the benefits of a massive private surveillance system. At least the comments are figuring it out. The tread on me experience, train by day, record everyone by night, all day. If they say it's for your safety, it's for the exact opposite. And I'll say it right now. I am way more scared of people like this, billionaires like this, who have access to all of the power in the world. They can do it. Bro, they can make you vanish like that. Okay. I'm way more scared of these fucking freaks than a couple of black dudes trying to steal my car. Okay. Or some fucking gang violence happening in a neighborhood that I have nothing to do with. Oh, they're jacking cars with kids in the back. Like this fucking guy gives a fuck about kids, okay? Do a quick Google search, see who he's friends with, okay? I bet you there's a couple that are on that list. Every time governments, billionaires, all these people talk about, oh, kids, we got to protect kids. We got to stop crime. Almost always it is an infringement. It is a pitch to infringe your rights. Almost always. People do act differently when they know they are being recorded, okay? They do not act as freely. And I understand that in some ways that can protect people from crime, but in other ways you are genuinely giving away your freedom. I'm not anti-security camera. You want to have your own cameras for your house, okay? You want to have your own, little system that it's being recorded to, your own hard drive, your own server, that's fine. But the idea that this guy, okay, has a fucking system of cameras all over a state and he's got an AI that's like parsing through it, I find that shit fucking repulsive. I think it should be a system in which you have to talk to the people involved. You have to talk to a business owner to get his security camera footage. You have to talk to a city to get their security camera footage. I don't think it should just be Flock who's managing everything and then giving stuff to the police. Now, before we jump into the actual apology that Joe Rogan offered to Theo Von, I have a couple more clips I want to play, particularly this one on Palantir.
Looks like he was, breastfed by a drone.
Israeli government began using Palantir software in 2014. It significantly scaled up its partnership during the genocide in Gaza, which began in this is for sure a biased source just by the way they phrase that.
I suppose the use of the term genocide set Joe Rogan off. This is a biased source. So let's read what this biased source has to say. How does Palantir support genocide and war? Israeli government began using Palantir software in 2014 and significantly scaled up its partnership during its genocide on Gaza, which began in 2023. Palantir's CEO, Alex Karp, has said, I am proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can. The Israeli military has used Palantir technology to plan attacks in Lebanon and Gaza. Palantir also works closely with the US military. According to CEO, our weapons software is in every combat situation I'm aware of. Palantir executive Shyam Sankar has said that Palantir's work for the Pentagon is this generation's Manhattan Project, referring to the World War II program that developed atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. For me, the main thing is I think it's awesome that Joe Rogan gets like 2 sentences into this, sees the word genocide, and goes, this is biased. It really does paint the picture. It really does let you know exactly what side Joe Rogan is on. This reaction really does help contextualize why he is so defensive against Theo Von bringing up Israel, bringing up pedophilia amongst politicians. Let's hear what he has to say after he says that this is a biased source.
Which began in 2023. Palantir CEO Alex Karp said, I am proud that we are supporting Israel in every way we can.
Is a quote from the CEO biased? Let's find out.
Israeli military has used Palantir technology to plan attacks in Lebanon and Gaza.
Yeah. I don't know if this is I know there are
No comment, Joe. Yeah. Like, what are we doing?
good sources, and this may be one. I have no idea.
This is the title of this is What is Palantir and Why is this corporation so dangerous? And this is from American Friends Service Committee.
Does Joe disagree with this?
American Friends Service Committee. What is that website?
Now, no. Let's look into the website, okay? Who gives a fuck about Palantir, okay? They're being mean to Palantir. They're saying disrespectful, okay, lies about Palantir. Palantir never supported Israel, okay? What the fuck?
Yeah, that sounds kind of wild or
Weird.
vague.
We bring together people of all faiths and backgrounds to challenge injustice and build peace around the globe.
I don't think I've ever seen Joe Rogan hyperfixate on a conservative news media outlet talking about anything that he agrees with, okay? It is always somebody disagreeing with one of his buddies. Oh, they don't fuck with Peter Thiel. Oh, they don't fuck with Palantir. Oh, they must be the woke left. But now let's jump into Joe Rogan's apology to Theo Von, and let's see what he has to say here.
Amy and I are going to talk about I have to make an apology to Theo Von after this. But
if you're wondering why I'm going to be cutting around in this apology, A, copyright, B, there's a lot of it that's just ramble that's not necessary. I mainly want to cut to the parts that I disagree with and specifically have an issue with.
So I wanted to do this because, well, number one, because I feel bad. And whenever I feel bad about something, and I felt bad all weekend, I feel like I have to address this. So I did an episode recently with Marcus King, the amazing musician. Almost called him a magician.
It's a pretty slow, boring apology so far. I'm just gonna jump to the parts that I disagree with. But essentially, he kind of gives reasons as to why he said what he said. Part of it being the Netflix taping and Theo saying that he's just trying to stay alive right now.
Like, what did you think when you saw that video
I mean,
for the
I just
first
saw
time?
a random video on Twitter one day. I was just like, look at Theo leaving stage, and like, why would he have even said that?
Right.
That's pretty much what I saw, and I was like, I knew nothing else about it.
I got scared. I got scared, first of all, because I love Theo, and second of all, because I've known multiple people that have taken their own life that I was close to that I didn't know they were going to do it until they did it.
I totally believe this. I'm sure that he does feel for Theo. I'm sure that he is worried about Theo. But the real issue is that it feels like he dismisses Theo Von and focuses on Theo Von's mental health instead.
Since the podcast where I told him, where he started talking about Israel and people were saying I was covering for Israel, there's people that even say my wife is Jewish. She's not. I don't know why people are saying that, but I get how if you...
Well, the issue, I mean, I don't know about the wife thing, whatever, but what the issue is, you seem so avoidant on the issue, you know, and we've played a couple clips here. You seem to be pro this administration, which is a very pro-Israel administration. Every time that there's a reference to Israel, you seem to kind of, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Canada. You know, you can't piss in Canada without giving away your guns. There's a lot of reasons why people look at you and go, what the fuck are you doing? This podcast itself with Mark Andreessen, I mean, you're big upping big surveillance. You are big upping Big Brother. And, you know, for an audience that has looked at you as this conspiracy theorist guy, this guy that will look into things, it feels like you're kind of not following up on what you've been your whole career. You know, you supported this guy, Donald Trump, you supported this administration, and now there's a war going on that's affecting everybody's cost of living, 100%. And that war is largely pushed on by Israel. You know, you talked about the Epstein files for like years. The second you had an opportunity to talk to Donald Trump, Epstein's name isn't even in the transcript. You didn't say shit about Epstein. And now, when you get a guy like Theo Von bringing up politicians, kids, all of a sudden, you're crazy, Theo. You gotta chill out, Theo. What's going on, Theo? Come to the mothership, Theo. Get off them SSRIs, Theo.
If you are conspiratorially minded, you would think that that's what I was doing. But if you've listened to the show, you would...
Dude, you are bro, what do you think your audience is? What do you think you've been talking about? What do you think your motif is? What do you think everybody thinks of you? Bro, you had on Alex fucking Jones to talk about a bunch of kids that got and giving him space to talk about it. You were willing to discuss a conspiracy theory about a fucking school. Okay, that was you. That's you. I don't give a fuck if you deleted it. You had the podcast. You gave that guy space. That's your boy, Alex Jones. Okay, that's your boy. How many fucking conspiracies did Eddie Bravo just come out and spit on your podcast? And you fucking either backed it. Bro, you didn't believe in the moon landing until recently. Okay? Dog, all of a sudden, you don't want to talk about any conspiracies. You don't want to talk about anything that's really going on. There is a genocide going on. And you heard the term genocide and go, what? Let me see the source. This seems like a biased source. That's what you said on your podcast recently. And it feels like all of these changes in your mentality coincide directly with you getting millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars dollars, massive influence, starting to have interviews with Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Donald Trump. You start having all these people on, all of a sudden, start changing your tune. It feels like Joe Rogan is a mouthpiece for the current administration. It feels like he is a mouthpiece for the elite, for the rich, and your audience is noticing. And I think the reason Joe is apologizing is because his audience is sick of it. His audience is up his ass on this shit.
You wouldn't think that that's how I've had so many episodes where we criticize Israel. So many so that I brought in Dave Smith to argue with Douglas Murray because I didn't want Douglas Murray to be able to say these things that were promoting this war in Gaza without someone who's very educated who understands what's going on, which is Dave, and very good at arguing. Have you ever been? But anyway, from that perspective, from that podcast on, Theo has gotten off the meds. He titrated off. He weaned himself off. He's doing yoga every day or running every day. He's doing something. He's much happier and much healthier. So it's for him to see that I think that he's suicidal. Like, fuck. That's my failing. That's my failing as a friend. That's my failing as a person. And it's also me talking to Marcus, almost sort of selfishly, ham-handedly try to explain why I talk to him the way I talk to him on that podcast.
Interpersonally, you know, as far as apologies go between himself and Theo Von, this is a pretty solid apology. But yeah, like, listen, I don't care that you had Dave Smith on to debate, you know, I don't even remember that guy's name. You know, you have one comedian on who's pro-Palestine. That's awesome. Don't get me wrong. That's great. I need more than that. Guys, I know I have Peter Thiel on. I know I have Mark Andreessen on. I know I have a bunch of fucking people that are pro-Israel all the time, that are billionaires, that actually have influence. But guys, I had Dave Smith on. Like, okay. The issue isn't just, oh, you know, how many pro-Palestinian voices are you having? It's also the way that you react in these conversations. The way you reacted in that Theo Von conversation was abhorrent. People are going to have issues with that. And, you know, conveniently for Joe, you know, he brings up Israel here as an example, and he can refer to Dave Smith. But you'll notice absolutely no reference to what Theo Von said, you know, politicians on kids. Why doesn't he mention that? Well, a couple of reasons. Joe has completely failed on that end. He did not question Trump once about the Epstein files. Trump has not done anything with the Epstein files but try to bury them. Thomas Massie, as you guys know, has been voted out largely because of his support for the Epstein files coming out and for his lack of support for the Iran war. He's been very against it. Where was Joe Rogan's support of Thomas Massie? Where was Joe Rogan's interview with Thomas Massie? Joe Rogan at this point, and he's earned this reputation, should not be viewed as anything other than a mouthpiece for this administration and for the elites.
And, you know, these are kind of subjects that sometimes, like, you almost need like a podcast to sort of break down why you were thinking about certain things. But so then it comes out, like, Theo has to defend it, and then I called him up and I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't even think of that, and that's very selfish of me. I didn't think that you would have to respond. I didn't even think of it. I just wanted to explain it when Marcus was talking about it, and I wanted to put it into a context. Like, Theo is one of my favorite people.
Anyways, he's going to go further into Theo. Listen, to me, the whole issue was that it felt like he was crazy making Theo and not willing to have the discussions that Theo was bringing up. I mean, like, it doesn't really matter to me. Good for them for squashing the beef. You know, it's nice. I don't know. I don't fucking care. You know, I don't want to act like these are, oh, my two close personal friends, and I'm so happy their beef is over. Like, I don't care. But frankly, this has been a very good vehicle to take a look at his biases, take a look at where everything is right now on the Joe Rogan podcast. And frankly, I'm going to keep taking a look at Joe Rogan's podcast and seeing when clips come out and talking about it, because it kind of feels like this guy has abandoned a lot of what got him to where he's at. Questioning authority, questioning the mainstream narrative on subjects. And, you know, you look at him now and look at who he has on his podcast. Look at who he's agreeing with. Look at who he calls a friend. This guy calls Peter Thiel a friend. But yeah, ladies and gents, that's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.